In a tragic accident, an Indian Air Force helicopter crashed in Chuna near Tawang in Arunachal Pradesh, killing 5 Air Force personnel and 2 Army personnel. India Today's Shiv Arur brings us this disturbing story.
The chopper was carrying 7 military personnel on a mission to supply a remote forward post on the India-Tibet border when tragedy struck at 6 a.m. on Friday. High up in the mountains of Arunachal Pradesh, an Indian Air Force Mi-17 helicopter crashed, tragically killing all 7 men on board. In the helicopter was a 5-man Indian Air Force crew and 2 Indian Army soldiers manning a cargo of kerosene fuel that had to be urgently delivered to a military post on the sensitive border. While the Indian Air Force has ordered an urgent inquiry into the terrible peacetime accident, top sources tell India Today that the chopper crashed after cargo being dropped from the chopper accidentally got entangled in the aircraft's tail rotor, sending it out of control and impacting the ground. The location of the crash is sensitive too, just 12 kilometers from the India-Tibet border, but one that is fully familiar to Indian air crews who fly this route daily to keep forward posts stocked and replenished always. Crash investigators will have a difficult job on their hands, with several questions already emerging. The possibility of human error, the fact that both the pilots were highly qualified, the fact that the Indian Air Force Mi-17 is a reliable and relatively new machine, and the fact that this was an air route that is used quite often and is very familiar to Indian Air Force pilots. Adding to the tragedy is that the accident took place just a day after the Indian Air Force chief expressed his concern about peacetime loss of life in air crashes.
Our losses during peacetime are a cause of concern, and we are making concentrated efforts to minimize accidents and preserve our assets.
And topping off the sad irony, the Indian Air Force has now been plunged into mourning just hours before it celebrates Air Force Day this Sunday. The crash will undoubtedly cast a shadow of gloom on what is usually a jubilant affair. The crash comes as yet another reminder, not just of the dangers of military aviation, but the dangerous and often deadly work our men and women in uniform have no choice but to engage in as part of their national duties. Bureau Report, India Today.
Some could argue that this was an avoidable risk, carrying kerosene on board, but for our air warriors it was essential because it had to be delivered to our soldiers at the line of actual control, guarding our borders against all odds. We pay our respects to our soldiers.